Kentucky's past is rich with courage, but not every hero made it into the history books. Today, we're bringing 12 forgotten figures back to life and finally giving their stories the voice they deserve. Number 1. Daniel Boone. Picture the dense Appalachian woods of the 1770s. No roads, no towns, only twisting game trails and tall, whispering trees. Into that wild stepped Daniel Boone, a skilled hunter with a calm voice and an iron will. He led a small team through the Cumberland Gap, chopping and blazing a path called the Wilderness Road. That single trail opened Kentucky to thousands of settlers and turned Boone into a living legend of the frontier. Life on the edge was not easy. Boone built Fort Boonesboro and helped families raise cabins inside its log walls. When danger came, whether from harsh winters or sudden attacks, he acted as hunter, scout, and peacemaker. Once, after being captured on a salt-making trip, Boone kept his cool, learned his captor's plans, and later guided his people to safety without a single musket shot. What made Boone special wasn't just bravery, but deep respect for the land. He learned from native guides, traveled light, and moved quietly so nature stayed undisturbed. Stories of his long hunts, sometimes months alone in the forest, spread east, painting him as the fearless woodsman every youngster dreamed of becoming. Though Boone ended his days far from Kentucky, his wilderness road had already carried over 200,000 pioneers west. Today, the state still celebrates him as the man who turned a wall of mountains into an open doorway, proving that steady courage and a keen eye can change a map forever. Number 2. Simon Kenton. If Daniel Boone blazed Kentucky's first trail, Simon Kenton guarded it with pure grit. Taller than most men and known for a quick smile, Kenton once saved Boone's life by scooping the wounded trailblazer onto his shoulders and sprinting through flying arrows to reach the fort. That daring rescue was only the start of his frontier legend. Kenton's toughness became the talk of every campfire. Captured by Shawnee warriors, he was forced to run the gauntlet, a line of foes striking him with clubs. Most captives collapsed after one run. Kenton survived the ordeal multiple times and lived to tell it. His captors, impressed by his endurance, spared him, and some even called him the man who could not be broken. Back with American militia, Kenton scouted deep into enemy ground during the Revolutionary War and later the War of 1812. He could read the forest like a book, spotting a bent twig, a muddy print, or a distant smoke curl that signaled danger. Many settlers credited their safe passage to Kenton's warning, whispered just in time. Yet Kenton never boasted. He spent his later years farming simple land, telling youngsters to respect the woods rather than conquer them. His calm courage and unshakable kindness turned him from fighter to folk hero. Number 3. George Rogers Clark. Before the United States stretched from coast to coast, one man helped secure the western frontier, and his name was George Rogers Clark. During the Revolutionary War, while most of the fighting happened along the East Coast, Clark led a daring mission to the wild lands beyond the Appalachian Mountains, determined to push British forces out of what would become Kentucky and beyond. With a small group of rugged frontiersmen, Clark marched through freezing rivers and harsh wilderness to surprise British outposts. His most famous victory came in 1779, when he captured Fort Vincennes in present-day Indiana after a grueling winter trek. The odds were impossible, but Clark used bold tactics and fearless leadership to make it happen. Thanks to his efforts, America gained control of the Northwest Territory, opening the door for westward expansion. Kentucky settlers honored him, calling him a hero of the frontier. But despite his achievements, Clark never received the recognition or the money he deserved. He spent his final years in poverty, largely forgotten by the government he helped build. Still, his legacy lives on. Without George Rogers Clark, the map of America might look very different. He helped win the war not with size or strength, but with courage, strategy, and the unshakable will of a pioneer. Number 4. Mary Carson Breenidge. In the early 1900s, the hills of eastern Kentucky were beautiful, but dangerously remote. Families lived miles from the nearest doctor, and childbirth often came with heartbreak. That's when Mary Carson Breenidge rode in, on horseback, through mountain paths, determined to change healthcare forever. After losing her own children, Mary made it her mission to help others. She studied nursing in Europe and returned to Kentucky with a bold idea: bring midwives directly to the people. In 1925, she founded the Frontier Nursing Service, training women to ride across rugged terrain to care for mothers and babies in need. These nurse midwives delivered thousands of babies, reduced death rates, and proved that even the most isolated families deserved top-quality care. Mary didn't just build clinics, she built trust. Her team became a lifeline in communities where hope had once felt far away. People called them angels on horseback. Mary Carson Breenidge didn't seek fame, but her work changed lives across Kentucky and inspired healthcare programs around the world. She showed that with compassion, courage, and a good horse, one woman could ride into the mountains and bring an entire generation safely into the world. Number 5. James Herod. Before Kentucky was even a state, James Herod was already carving out its future. In 1774, he led a group of settlers into the wilderness and founded Harrodsburg, the first permanent European settlement in what would become Kentucky. He wasn't just a pioneer, he was a builder, a soldier, and a leader, guiding others through unknown lands with bravery and skill. Herod was known for his fierce independence and his deep knowledge of the frontier. He fought in Lord Dunmore's War, helped defend settlements during the American Revolution, and even clashed with Daniel Boone over land and leadership. Some called him stubborn, others called him fearless, but all respected him as a man who helped shape Kentucky's earliest days. Then, in 1792, James Herod disappeared. He went into the wilderness on a hunting trip and never came back. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some believed he was killed by native warriors. Others thought he was murdered over a land dispute. And some say he simply walked away from everything, choosing the silence of the forest over the noise of civilization. To this day, no one knows what really happened. But Herod's legacy lives on in the town that still bears his name. He may have vanished, but the trail he blazed helped thousands find their way west and left behind one of Kentucky's greatest unsolved mysteries. Number 6. Richard Mentor Johnson. Richard Mentor Johnson's story reads like a tall tale, but it's all true. Born in Kentucky in 1780, he rose from frontier roots to become a U.S. congressman, a senator, and eventually the 9th Vice President of the United States. But what truly sets him apart? He's the only vice president who claimed to have killed a famous enemy in battle, Tecumseh, the great Shawnee chief. During the War of 1812, Johnson led a Kentucky regiment into the Battle of the Thames. In the middle of the fight, he charged straight into enemy lines on horseback, pistols blazing. When the smoke cleared, Tecumseh was dead, and Johnson took credit. The bold move made him a folk hero, earning him the slogan, "Rumpsy Dumpsy, Colonel Johnson killed Tecumseh." But Johnson wasn't your typical politician. He openly lived with an enslaved woman named Julia Chinn and treated her as his common-law wife, something unheard of at the time. This made him controversial in Washington, even as he remained popular back home in Kentucky. His honesty, bravery, and bold choices made him one of the most unique figures in early American politics. Though history often skips his name, Richard Mentor Johnson helped shape both Kentucky and the nation. He was a warrior, a lawmaker, and a trailblazer in more ways than one, and his life proves that some of America's most daring heroes rode in from the frontier, ready for anything. Number 7, Henry Clay. In a time when the United States was always one argument away from breaking apart, Henry Clay stood in the middle, doing everything he could to hold it together. Known as the Great Compromiser, Clay was a powerful voice in Congress who fought not with fists, but with words, strategy, and vision. From his home state of Kentucky, he rose to become one of the most influential leaders in American history. Clay served in the House of Representatives, the Senate, and even as Secretary of State. He was behind some of the most important deals in U.S. history, like the Missouri Compromise and the Compromise of 1850, which tried to ease tensions over slavery and preserve the fragile Union. Time after time, he stepped in to calm the storms before they exploded. But while others chased glory, Clay often chose peace. He ran for president 3 times and lost each one. Still, his work behind the scenes shaped the country more than many who sat in the Oval Office. Even Abraham Lincoln once called Clay his beau ideal of a statesman, a man who stood for principle over power. Henry Clay's name may not be as loud today, but his legacy is strong. He believed in unity, in compromise, and in a vision of America that could survive its sharpest divides. He wasn't just a Kentucky leader, he was a national peacemaker who helped America stay whole just a little longer. Number 8, Madeline McDowell Breenidge. Born into a powerful Kentucky family, Madeline McDowell Breenidge could have lived a quiet, comfortable life. But instead, she chose to fight for justice, for health, and for the rights of women. Even as she battled serious illness, she stood tall as one of the South's most powerful voices in the women's suffrage movement. Madeline traveled across Kentucky and beyond, giving speeches and organizing rallies. She helped lead the Kentucky Equal Rights Association and worked with national leaders to demand the vote for women. She was smart, persuasive, and fearless, speaking to lawmakers who didn't want to listen and breaking barriers wherever she went. She didn't stop at suffrage. Madeline also pushed for better schools, child labor laws, and health care in rural communities. She believed Kentucky could be stronger if everyone had a chance to speak and be heard. Even as her health declined, she kept working, never slowing down. In 1920, just months before the 19th Amendment passed, Madeline died at only 48 years old. But her efforts helped win one of the most important rights in American history. She proved that courage isn't about size or strength. It's about standing up again and again until change finally comes. Number 9, Dr. Ephraim McDow. In the early 1800s, Surgery was risky, painful, and often deadly. But in the small Kentucky town of Danville, one doctor made history by doing something no one else had ever dared. Dr. Ephraim McDow performed the world's first successful abdominal surgery without anesthesia in a patient's own home and with nothing but steady hands and fearless determination. The patient, a brave woman named Jane Todd Crawford, traveled 60 miles on horseback to reach McDowell after other doctors said her condition was hopeless. With no modern tools and only his assistant beside him, McDowell removed a 22-pound tumor from her body. She not only survived, she fully recovered and lived for decades afterward. At the time, many didn't believe it was even possible. Word of the surgery spread slowly, but McDowell's work began changing how people thought about medicine. He went on to treat hundreds more patients, always pushing for higher standards and better care. He didn't ask for fame. He just wanted to help people live. Today, Dr. McDowell is remembered as the father of abdominal surgery, and his historic home in Danville still stands as a medical landmark. He proved that courage isn't only found on battlefields, it's also found in quiet rooms, where one life-saving decision can change the world. Number 10. John Gregg Fee. In a time when most voices in Kentucky were silent about slavery, John Gregg Fee refused to back down. Born into a slave-holding state, he shocked his neighbors by speaking out against the injustice of slavery, and never stopping, even when it cost him his church, his safety, and his home. Fee believed that true Christianity meant treating everyone as equals. In the 1850s, he founded Berea College, the first school in the South to admit black and white students, men and women, together. This bold move angered many. Pro-slavery mobs drove Fee and his followers out of town, but he returned after the Civil War to rebuild Berea stronger than ever. Berea College stood as a powerful symbol of hope and change, offering education to those who had been denied it for generations. Fee continued preaching, teaching, and helping formerly enslaved people find their footing in a new world. His mission was clear: faith should never be used to justify injustice. John Gregg Fee may not be a household name, but his vision still lives on in the halls of Berea College. He showed that true bravery isn't always loud. It's doing the right thing when no one else will, and building something better for those who come after. Number 11. Cassius Marcellus Clay. Cassius Marcellus Clay wasn't your typical Kentucky politician. Born into a wealthy slave-holding family, he stunned everyone by becoming one of the South's loudest voices against slavery. He believed no man should own another, and he said it loudly, even when it nearly got him killed. In 1845, Clay founded an anti-slavery newspaper in Lexington called The True American. Not long after, an angry mob broke in and destroyed his press. But Clay didn't back down. He armed himself with pistols and a Bowie knife and kept speaking out, even while serving in the Kentucky legislature and U.S. diplomatic posts. During the Civil War, he was a trusted friend of Abraham Lincoln and helped keep Kentucky from joining the Confederacy. He also served as U.S. Minister to Russia and played a role in securing the Alaska Purchase. But back home, Clay stayed true to his mission, fighting injustice no matter the cost. Cassius Clay may have been born into privilege, but he chose a different path, one that was dangerous, unpopular, and brave. His life was full of action, from duels to diplomacy, and he proved that real courage means standing for what's right, even when you stand alone. Number 12. Jenny Wiley. In 1789, Jenny Wiley was living a quiet life in a Kentucky cabin when her world was shattered. A group of Native American warriors raided her home, killing several of her children and taking her captive. What followed was a nightmare, but Jenny's strength would turn her story into legend. She was marched hundreds of miles through rough wilderness, forced to live among her captors, and suffered through months of fear and heartbreak. She gave birth in captivity, endured hunger, and waited for a chance to escape. Most people would have given up. Jenny didn't. One night, nearly a year after being taken, she made her move. With help from friendly settlers, she slipped away from her captors and made the long, dangerous journey back to Kentucky. She reunited with her husband, rebuilt her life, and went on to have more children, never forgetting the past, but never letting it define her. Jenny Wiley's story became a symbol of survival and frontier resilience. Today, there's even a state park named after her. She wasn't a soldier or a politician, just a mother who fought to live and protect her future. And in doing so, she became one of Kentucky's most unforgettable heroes. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.